Hello everyone, welcome to Career Chronicles. This is Aishwarya. Today we have Srinivas who's working in JPMorgan Chase. So we'll get to know about his journey, some tips and strategies in order to get into JPMorgan. So before that, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a great weekend with friends, like playing some badminton and all that. It's an energetic day. How are you?
I'm doing great, Srinivas. That's great. So I hope we can start up with an introduction from your side.
So as you just mentioned, I'm Srinivas, and I graduated from IT Madras with a main tech in robotics last year, and I'm currently working in JPMorgan Chase as a quant research analyst in the wholesale credit risk team.
Okay, cool. Okay, so how did you land into this job specifically?
Right. So, like I said, the final year of college, like in all colleges, we have this placement season, and we had like about 3 month long process, which is extremely hectic. And there is like a series of there is like I think for about 3 months, we have continuous tests coming in from like different companies that register on our like placement portal, and like we give a lot of tests and for our batch, since it was COVID, we were at home and all that. We were called back to college, but we still had to give these tests online, and there were these like rounds of online tests, and after that comes like a short period of time where companies can conduct like group discussions if they want to, and then all the interviews are concentrated into like 1 week period, where like the companies are like split into like days, and like whatever short list you have from the test, you attend those interviews, and and that week is when you will get to know your offer as well. So that's a whole process
Okay, okay.
as a whole, and
So
yeah, that's a whole process as whole. And we went through that. We wrote a lot of tests, like got like a few shortlists, like 10 to 12 shortlists, and then we gave some interviews. That was like the overall idea.
yeah, cool. Can you just brief about your interview process? How was it, and what kind of emotions you had while getting into the interview part? Yeah, you can just explain those things.
Sure. I'll get to the first part of the question first about the interview process itself. So the process itself starts with these tests, like I mentioned, and that almost happens whenever. I mean, this is not the case when there are like lateral hires where there are like direct interview opportunities. But when you go through like a college placement in any fashion, it so happens that there are a lot of people like competing for like a very few number of jobs. Like no matter like which department you're from, no matter which college you're from, no matter which companies you're targeting. This is always the case. There's always like a huge competition there, and that in some ways like good for both the students and the companies, because it brings everyone to one place, like where we can interact easily, because it's even difficult to get these opportunities outside, right?
Yeah.
And in that sense, the system is that there is an initial like layer of like testing which happens to filter out, like it's like, I mean, like for what it's worth, it's like a very big system of like filtering processes with like different attributes to different steps. And the tests are usually we usually see like aptitude kind of tests for in general, like for whatever like interview process that is, or whatever like education, like academic things. So apart from aptitude kind of questions, the other major and prominent set of like field or questions that you face with these interviews for most of these tech profiles, tech or like investment bank related profiles, is that they focus a lot on DSA, data structures and algorithms, and they focus a lot on like probability and statistics. So those are say like two key things that the companies look forward to, because just like how aptitude is like a general selection criterion for like a larger of people, this DSA is considered to be the easiest and the best like selection criteria for uh, people when it comes to the technical skills in particular. So most of these tests focus largely on these DSA problems. Apart from this, that there are other things like the probabilities and say a little bit of database management, SQL type questions. There are some guesstimates, which is a pretty interesting concept, where you try to guess the number of something to assess your quantitative sense. Maybe something like like try to guess the number of trees and number of leaves in like a particular tree, or the number of cars in a city. So obviously you're not going to get the exact number, but how you arrive at that ballpark figure, like how do you even start thinking about it? So that is like, let's say for that city example, maybe you start thinking let a city have these many neighborhoods, and like a neighborhood can have like these many apartments and these many houses, and let's say that like 20% of the people own car and something like that. So how, the way that you think about it, that's what they look for. So guesstimate kind of questions. And in the end, there are some group discussion where they assess your communication skills. These are all the things that they touch upon. But I said like the primary focus, the entry level thing that is really that really requires a lot of practice, I'd say, is the data structures and algorithms part. And that is with the tests and the group discussions. And then comes the interviews, where again the focus is on these things, but these are more informal, in the sense there is going to be not a computer sitting in front of you trying to like ask you to code. It's going to be another person who's going to assess you. And it helps because they're going to help you think, they're going to let you think, they're going to guide you in the process. It could be anything between just sharing your screen and writing some code to actually like being on a live test platform where the mouse movements are also synchronized, something like that. So
Yeah.
but you're expected to like solve problems, like code solutions to those, and maybe answer some like other questions about like in general about like Python, or in general about like development, and say uh, like probability, some things like that. That's the interview process. At least like the first few rounds. The number of round itself depends, varies a lot on the company.
Mm-hmm.
Some like usually it's somewhere between like 3 to 5, 6 rounds, and the rounds are pretty short, like uh, maybe 20-minute rounds. There are some companies which have like unconventional like interviews where it's just one round, which is an hour and a half long,
Mm-hmm.
and the questions also like very different. It really depends on the role, and whatever the process that I'm talking about are very particular to these technology roles or this quantitative research roles. So that has to be kept in the back.
Yeah, got it. So, how in any role or any kind DSA plays a dominant role, I believe. Like we should be aware of the points, the keys of DSA. The first and the end part of DSA is very important, I believe.
Exactly. I think one word that you said is very important, that a lot of people should focus on. It's the awareness,
Mm-hmm.
because like uh, even we when we know for sure that we are going to have to go through this placement season in our say fourth year,
Mm-hmm.
we're not really aware about the importance of DSA even in a second year. Some
Mm-hmm.
people who are like very outreaching and like talk to seniors and all that, and those kind of people come to know it, but it's really not like told to us in any like formal fashion. So uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that this would be the most primary thing that all the companies would test you on. So that is something that needs to be spread. The awareness needs to be developed so that people can really start working on it early, spend some time learning to get the grasp of it, because it really is about how much time you spend into it. And there aren't that many varieties of problems if you think about it. And so it's just about whether you're like aware about it and you've spent enough time on it to uh, not be very hasty when you like say face an error, and you're like calm enough to like try and debug it. That does come with practice. So that
Mm.
awareness is very important.
Okay, cool, cool. That's great. So, what kind of learning or process you did for your interview? What are the things
Mm.
you did? Like, what are the major things you did for in order to crack? Yeah, in order to crack.
I guess I could classify that into three kinds.
Mm-hmm.
The one would be the preparation for the test, and like I became aware of the requirement of DSA pretty late in the process. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to spend some time trying to like I said, there are tests that come in like almost every day. So with every test that I give and every problem that I was not able to solve, I had this attitude to like go back and then try to solve it later and try to like read up about it, uh, because even if you are over that point where you needed that, there's no saying when you'll need it again. So it's always good to go back and learn something that you like missed, or learn something that you didn't know earlier. So uh, having that learning attitude and just trying to go back and learn those things. So I practiced on DSA in that fashion, and that was about the tests. I had all like, and then I also had focused on revising things that I knew about probability and statistics. That helps. That was for the test part. Apart from this, there are these uh, like other things, like I said, the SQL databases, or the computer architecture kind of things, which are like very small topics when it comes to interview, because they are, I think they are like a 1 day read. You can just like sit on it and then read it in a day. And but there are about like 8 to 9 topics like this, and like the SQL, the computer architecture, computer networks, like how say like some level of like statistics, personal finance based on interest rate and things like that. And let me think. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it all. So these are the things that those are the second category of things. And yeah, like the guesstimates that I mentioned earlier. So there are a lot of examples on the internet like about the kind of guesstimates that you can answer. And similar to DSA, the more examples you see, it kind of opens your mind to like different perspectives of thinking and of like arriving at, like say, a methodology for guessing a particular value, something like that. So those are the things. Those are the things that are put in the second basket, which don't require a lot of time, but you need to spend like at least a day on each topic, and there are some 7 8 topics, so it takes a week for that. And DSA was in the first basket, where it requires like I think 1 or 2 months of practice, like 1 or 2 months of solid practice, where you spend at least like an hour on it every day. And the third basket is about the soft skills, because let's say that you're past the interview, let's say you're past the test layer and the group discussion layer, if there is any. The interview is going to be like either a one-on-one session, or it's going to be like 2 or 3 people from the company talking to you. And it you it, and you have to know that everyone who's in that level has cleared all those tests, so
Yeah.
they are all technically as sound as you. And in the interview, obviously you're expected to be like technically sound, but what is going to set you apart is how you're going to express that knowledge, and how you're going to like leave a memorable impression. So you have to be you have to be composed in the first place, so that you are at your best, you're able to like think think from the depths and all that. So for that, again, you need some practice. Yeah, like I said, with the other two things here also, practice matters, because I still remember the first time that I sat in an interview, and I thought I was prepared for it, but I was shivering when the question started. And it was a it was for some internship, and it was a pretty basic question about some probability related to dice roll. But I still couldn't answer about it in any way. And the interviewer was actually very encouraging. He gave me some time to think about it. He gave me a few hints, but I was not even thinking about the problem. I was just stuck somewhere else. I was just stuck, and I couldn't even start to think about the problem. So
Yeah.
I guess when you're put on that spotlight, it's very natural for you to feel a little threatened in some way, like, or it makes you a little hasty because you're on the spotlight, and like
Yeah.
you have to perform something like that. So uh, and in that case, what really helps is there are obviously like a lot of packages or sites which give you formal interview experiences. There are websites that help you do that. But you don't even have to do all that. You can just ask some of your friends to interview you,
Okay.
and like when you both take it a little bit seriously, you can actually easily pull that off. Like, and even such like an informal experience with one of your friends is going to help you like boost your confidence, is going to give you some idea about like how like what kind of things you feel when you start giving an interview and things like that. And the second thing about this basket is that it also helps to be prepared in your mind with answers to some of the basic questions that you would expect. Something like, say, tell me about yourself. You think that it's just about your name, your college, and whatnot, and you can just bring it in the interview. But it really helps to like spend some time on it and like have some thoughts about it, so that when you are in the interview process, you can like uh, and I think that part of the interview process also improves a lot with practice. So there are a lot of courses that are offered by different websites with interview packages, like 7 or 8 interview packages, formal interview packages. And if even that level of thing is not required, you can just have some things with your friends. You can just invite your friend and have like a formal interview session, with a little bit of seriousness. And if you can pull that off, that does add a lot of value too, because you will understand about yourself. You'll understand about the kind of things that you'll feel when you're put in the spotlight, when you're thinking about the feeling of being in an interview and things like that. So that is one thing. The other thing I want to highlight is there are some questions that we know are going to be like thrown at us, like something like, say, tell me about yourself, like tell me about your previous experiences, or if you're like trying to switch work, like uh, explaining about your previous work and things like that. And those are the questions that really sound very obvious to us because we are so used to it. We think that we will be able to wing it, but those are also the questions that you want to leave a memorable experience for the interviewer, and those are the questions that you need to not prepare per se word to word, but you have to think about uh, what kind of attitude I'm going to have, like when I'm trying to tell about myself. What are the things that I want to highlight about myself? It just shouldn't be something like your name, your college, and your degree. It has to be something actually about yourself, and
Yeah.
that kind of uh, connects. Like, okay, this thing is with this person, so that kind of leaves like an impression on the interview. So you need to work on those questions as well. Think about what parts of your previous work experience you can highlight that are relevant to this field. So such spending some time and some thought on the most obvious questions also helps a lot. That is one thing I want to highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, so for those traditional questions like tell me about yourself, we can just think like these are the things I'm going to talk. So that is something like a kind of small preparation or something that's needed. On the other hand, we should be ready to learn. So that is something that makes the interview process in a very subtle manner also. Yeah, cool. That's great. So did you do any research before getting into this company? What kind of research you did? Yeah.
Are you asking about this particular company, about the company's things that I did before attending for the interview? Or?
You can make it a common platform. Like, did you do any research before getting into the interview part? We can make it like this. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I definitely did, and that is something also I would encourage everyone to do because uh, I used to think actually like before getting into this company or before getting into the interview process, I've looked at the websites of a lot of companies and it almost used to look very same. It's like every company has like say these visions for their own like and things like that, and I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it or didn't care about it that much. But when I started giving these interviews, I realized, and even more so after working in this company for about like 8 to 9 months, I've realized that let's say that there are like two investment banks or like two software development companies which are like large scale companies, and what are the things that actually set them apart? They are obviously like turning over billions, and they're obviously like having a lot of employees. They're doing really great work, and that's why they are at that level. But there is something different about these companies, right? And uh, to the core, I think the company's visions are what actually sets them apart. So some companies are more have a higher risk appetite. Some companies are more like forward looking. Some companies like different companies have different visions, and uh, researching about that and paying attention to those things that are listed on their website, some of the documents that they've shared, like some of the public documents that they've uploaded, uh, helps you get an understanding of what kind of vision the company has, and you can think about whether that matches with your goals.
Okay.
You can try to think if this is the kind of a company that I want to go in with at this stage of life, with these things looking forward to these things, and trying to match that will like make you happy about choosing that company in the end if you do that process. So that like paying attention to those things, I think also helps.
Okay. So make a research, understand what connects you with the company, and then go for it. So that's something it's good, I believe.
Yes, and
Okay.
also sometimes it helps in the interview process itself. So when you're in a HR round, say, and you're posed with some questions, and they're obviously not going to ask you like, did you research about a company? Did you look at a page? Like, what are your vision? They're not going to ask you that. But what are questions they ask? If you can integrate their vision with your answers in some way, then it also like gives makes you like leave a memorable impression. So.
Got it. Cool. Did you have any questions for the interviewer? Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I think you'd always like you asked, you'd always be given an opportunity to ask questions, right? And uh, like the I had like this one question that I always used to ask at all of these interviews that I attended, and it is always about the interviewers' work. So I would ask like what their role was in the company, how long they have been working there, and what their day-to-day like work looks like. So and in most cases, in the case of lateral hires, it's mostly your direct manager or your manager's manager who's going to like do some of the rounds of interviews, and an insight into their day of work will really throw a lot of light on what you can expect when you go in. And of course, you can expect that they're not going to tell anything negative about the role in any way, because you're in an interview process where like you're prospecting with each other. But you can get when you ask when you pose the question in a way where you're not talking about the role in general, where you're not talking about the field in general, you're talking about that person's particular day of work, like what they do, like from morning to evening. Like when you put it in that way, and understanding what they do will throw a lot of light on like what you can look forward to when you join. So that is one thing that you can ask, I think.
Great. So,
And sorry to interrupt, but I think you can also ask about some feedback, like in a very like positive sense, where you can show that you're looking forward to learn and you're like good at taking feedback. That is also one thing you can do. Go on.
yeah. So, what are the required skills you feel that is important for your role?
Yes, about my role, like I mentioned, I work as a quant research analyst in the wholesale credit risk team. So it's
Okay.
about a team in JPMorgan which handles the wholesale credit business. And what my role constitutes is about developing some models and using Python, like implementing those in Python in a more like production ready way, and trying to like that is there are two aspects to it. One is writing optimal code so that because when you're working at that scale, even savings in like a few seconds is going to matter a lot, and that is what you would actually work on, like trying to optimize some part of the code or trying to like build something in the most like optimal way. So writing code in Python, that constitutes a large part of my day. And apart from that, it's also about the thinking in scale. uh, Contrast to like what you would have done in college or what I had done in college, it's usually like small scale where it really is not going to make that much of a difference as to whether I do something optimal or a little suboptimal. But here you have to think about scale. It's going to be like a large value things and like large number of entities you're dealing with, and a large number of users in some cases. So uh, like I also have some days where I have to think about uh, whether this scales, whether this solution scales to this problem, and whether like this will have to be a little more forward looking. So I think the skills that I would mention, which are very relevant, are uh, like strong like coding skills, say in Python, and
Okay.
like thinking about solutions to problem uh, with scale, and like something which is forward looking. So those are the two things.
Great. So, what advice would you give to people who are just starting out as a tester?
Uh, so I think I could sum that with three key things. One is companies are also like continuously evolving. So I don't think it's the case as to like the companies are not the same as how they were say 10 or 15 years ago. Now it's more now the roles are more open minded. You have a lot of options for internal mobility in most places. So you don't really have to be very specific when it comes to like what you want to do when you're not sure of like what you want to do. So a lot of people, and like with time, with progressing time, we find that a lot of people have so many options in front of them. It kind of like leads to some choice paralysis, and you're not very sure as to what you want to do. In those cases, I think it's a good strategy to just uh, like roughly get an idea, like filter out something that you want to do. Maybe it may not be the most important thing you want to do, but if it's like in the top 10 things, you can just get into it, give it a try, have some experience, and try to see where you can go from that.
Okay.
Because nothing is set in stone today. That's the gist. uh, so like exploring and trying out things is one thing that I would really suggest. The second is that when you're looking for opportunities, again, we have a lot of unconventional like ways to look for opportunities now. There are obviously like apart from college placements and apart from like browsing the websites and applying for roles, we have LinkedIn where we can find a lot of opportunities. And one other very important thing is almost all companies have referral programs, because it they spend a lot on like the hiring process. So they'll be really happy if some of their employees uh, like suggest some good candidates that they hire, and they're so happy that they're even ready to pay their employees like for for this for referring other people. So who they hire, obviously. So in that sense, reach out to your friends, reach out to say 3 or 4 of your very close friends, and ask them to reach out to all of their friends looking when you're looking for some opportunities. So uh, develop your network in that way, like reach out to people so that like where the opportunities are, you can get referrals. So that is the second thing. Look for like very unconventional ways. Recently, I don't exactly remember which company this was, but recently I saw a post on LinkedIn where a person really wanted to get placed in a company. He just did he just like went ahead, like saw some of the problems that the company had posted recently, worked on those. It is not production ready. They're not going to directly take it. It's not going to end up anywhere. But he just worked on it like in a in a really nice way. Posted some solution on in some piece of code that does something really beautiful, and just to show that he was interested in what the company does. And the company did respond, and I think he landed up a job there. So uh, like these are the kind of stories that we wouldn't have heard like say 10 or 15 years back. So like look for unconventional ways to for opportunities. That is the second thing. And the third thing is about like being aware. I mean, in the first place, if you're watching this video, it means that you're reaching out to everywhere, like, to understand and like see how you can better your career. So having that awareness, like always looking forward to things, having that awareness, because like I said, just spending some thought on the tell me about yourself question, just spending 20 minutes on it and practicing it with your friend once or twice, like just telling it to yourself in front of a mirror once is going to make a huge difference in the way that you present yourself in the interview. So spending that thought and knowing that you have to spend that thought, that awareness is the key. So just continue to like watch more videos like this, continue to like look for things, reach out to things, like always have that exploring mind.
Yeah, so the three important points are like just explore and then analyze which point you want to get in, and then go for it. And second is like go for referrals. Yeah, if in case, and go for some interesting things like LinkedIn or something. And third point is like awareness. Awareness is something that you should be so much like this is the flow or something that we can work on by which we can get into the great parts. Yeah. So thank you, Srinivas. It was very great. Like you just gave explanation for each and every question. Hope people get good insights from this video. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.